Welcome, everyone. We're going to wait just a couple of seconds more until it's time to begin. I'm excited to see everyone joining me today. I hope you're having a beautiful day, that your weather is beautiful. We are having amazing weather in central Illinois. I'm always wondering, is it really going to last? It's supposed to be up in the 70s. We do not get 70s in February. So it has been just wonderful to be able to enjoy the warmer weather and not have to wear a coat and to be able to take the dog out and go for a walk. And anyway, it's been really nice. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. This is our daytime YouTube live, and I'm telling you, we need a new name. That's not a very good name. I mean, we've got night owl quilters for our night owl and daytime quilting YouTube live. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. So if you have an idea for what we could call this session, I'd like to do this on the first and the third week of the month. I like to keep it on a certain day, like our night owl is always on Mondays on the second and fourth Monday of the month. It's a little harder with the daytime because sometimes, our days have appointments and things that we have to do. So we can't always keep it exactly on the same day, but I still want to do it on the first and the third week of the month. So this week this is our third. This is our first week, and then checking on the date, March 6th will be the first. This is our third actually week of the month, but then we'll start again in March on the 1st, which will be the 6th. So I hope that makes sense after all that fumbling. But anyway, I think it's just so much fun to just be able to sit and chat. And we have a quilting class called it's a beginning quilter class, from novice to confident beginner. And we are just wrapping up that class. We are almost to the end. And one of the features, if you're interested in the class, I'll tell you this first. We do have a waiting list. We have had a huge class for our first session. That was kind of our premier group, and they helped us test it out. Now we're getting into the real thing, which will begin in March. It's an 8-week course. It is a beginning course. So if you know nothing about quilting, this is going to take you from the very beginning of quilting and on through. But we have several in the class that are basically not novice. They're intermediate and almost, I would say, getting close to advanced. And they have still been able to participate in the class. They've been able to share their knowledge and expertise. Plus, I have some history that we talk about. We have other things. We have the therapeutic benefits of quilting, which includes our chats, as well as some yoga exercises that we teach, that my daughter, Carrie, who is a certified yoga instructor, she teaches those as well during the class, so that, we get up and we move and we take care of ourselves while we are quilting. We're not just sitting in one position. So if you're interested in the class, if you go to joyfulandmerryquilting.com/store, it's listed there. You can sign up to be on the waiting list, and then we'll notify you when registration begins. So like I say, if you are basically in any phase of quilting, I think there's still some great benefits to the course, and we've really had a good time. But one of the best things that I have found for me is that when we meet for our biweekly chats, there are 4 chat sessions during the 8-week period. We learn so much from each other. And that's kind of what I love about this particular time too, whether it's our night owl quilting or whether it's just here in the daytime, that we can share ideas. And we've had so many of you that have either emailed me or posted information that in our chat session that I've been able to use. So thank you for that. Thanks for being here, and thank you for helping me out with that. But again, if you've got something, if you can think of a fun name for this group, write it down, and I'll look over those when we're done with the session. And who knows? Maybe we'll just keep it as the plain, easy to understand, or maybe we'll come up with something fun. I don't know. Oh, Dora, thank you for the endorsement. I appreciate it. Dora is in our class, so I'm grateful that she's here. We have, again, like I said, we have just had just a fantastic year from the beginning, from January. December ended up wonderfully for Joyful and Merry Quilting. We are approaching our April 6th. I think it was April 6th when we first started, when we began everything, when it started up. And in just this short period of time, we are almost at 17,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which has been really wonderful. It's been good and it's been scary. And the good part has been so many unbelievably kind and generous comments, people that have given us ideas, that have commented. And I've got a few of those ideas that I am turning into tips videos because there have been those who have said, hey, I've got a good way to do this, or hey, I can help you with that. So if, again, you have any ideas like that, please let me know. I'm most grateful for that. We've also had a few people that have been a little scary. We had, at one point, we got invaded by some spammers. And fortunately, YouTube has a great system for that, and they removed them immediately. But that was a little tense. And then we had a controversial video on the scant, and I'm not going to say that word anymore. I only say it just to tell you what it was. The scant quarter-inch seam that really did cause some explosions on both sides of the fence. Whether you're a non-scant person or a scant person, everybody seems to be really opinionated on that subject. And so we went through a lot on that, to the point that I had so many good comments. I'm going to do another video with those follow-ups. So look for that video. I'm hoping that it won't be this Tuesday, but I'm hoping that it will be next week. This Tuesday is already out. This was the one about our scrap busting and our pattern, this pattern. But if you stay tuned, because I'm going to try and clarify a few things and offer you some suggestions that others gave me to rectify that issue, that we need to have an accurate piece in the end when we are actually piecing our blocks or pieces together or whatever. The end product, that accurate piece, is what is so important. And that's what I was trying to stress. The word scant, too much controversy with that. So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to make those blocks accurate. So I'm going to do a follow-up on that just to let you know. We as for my merry moment for this past, I haven't talked to you in so long, so it's been a while, but my merry moment was actually finishing up this Embracing Our Scraps quilt. This had such a great story behind it, and that's what I loved about it. When I first started out, it was the beginning of the year. I don't set New Year's resolutions. I don't like doing that. I like to set goals for myself. So I had, my scraps, as many of you understand, my scraps were like totally out of control. And I had a big basket. I had little bins. I had all sorts of things that I had kept them in. And at one point, I knew that I had to come up with something to rectify that problem. I needed to have those scraps organized into usable pieces. So I started cutting them into strips, and I had different strips that I used. I like cutting them into the 5-inch squares and the 10-inch squares and 2.5 and 3.5 and 1.5 and 2-inch strips, all that. So that's my scrap busting system, but I didn't really ever share it with anybody. It's just what worked for me. Well, then I started at the beginning of the year. All these people were talking about being overwhelmed with scraps. They don't want to buy any more fabric until they get rid of the scraps that they already have, which I absolutely agree. That's good fabric that's going to waste. And what happens to it is eventually it gets old. Pretty soon the colors don't match anything else. If we don't use those pieces, we need to do something with them, give them away if we're not going to use them, so that they can be put to good use. So I was trying to think what would be a good motivator. So I thought, well, I'll write up my scrap busting system and let everybody know. So we did that video, and that was fun. That was a live, I believe. And then had a lot of positive comments, and people were downloading the scrap busting system. So then I thought, no, we actually need to have a scrap busting system that doesn't just sit there. It needs to be active. We need to use those pieces, make room for more, because there's always going to be more, and continue with that. So that was my second thought. Well, then, as I said in my video, and if you want to look at it, I won't go into all the details, but this process just kept evolving to the point that I kept thinking, okay, I can give them a block, but then they need to be able to put it into a pattern. Nobody wants to just have a bunch of blocks sitting around. And then I came up with a pattern, and then the pattern was just not very detailed. And usually when I do my patterns, if you've done any of my patterns, they are really detailed. And I like to walk you through everything step by step, because not everybody knows how to quilt. And I want you to be able to take one of my patterns and turn it into a quilt, even with limited quilting knowledge. So that was kind of hanging over my head. And I'm thinking, oh, this is not my typical pattern. I just can't do this. So I decided I'm just gonna make another block. I'm going to take pictures all the way along, let everybody know. We'll have a video on how to put the block together. I take a video, not pictures. And so I did that too. And that was good. I think everybody could follow along with that. But some people are visual learners and some people like the paper. And sometimes we can take and look at the video, but then we can also look at the paper, the pattern, and putting the two together makes a huge difference in our success. And again, that kept sticking in my head. I'm thinking, I got to make sure that I have to give everybody what I usually give everybody if I'm going to tell them to make a pattern that I've designed. So that's where the pattern came from. And the Tuesday tip video actually has all that information about the pattern if you're interested in that. It takes you not only from start to finish to create this quilt, it has all the measurements and everything, the accompanying video that's on YouTube. But in addition, there's a couple of other options. There's the foundation piecing. Then there is also the templates. If you're into template piecing, you can do it that way. I've provided the templates in the pattern. And then we had one of our Joyful and Merry community members, Kathy Havernick, actually sent me a scaled drawing of cutting up a layer cake square to create the pieces rather than using scraps because she didn't have the scraps that she wanted to use for that. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. It was beautiful. She was kind enough to let us put it in the pattern. And the pieces are all cut up as outlined in the pattern. There are a couple of extra pieces, these white pieces that go in between that she used a light layer cake for that. I didn't put that in the pattern, but that's where that came from in case you're looking at it and you're wondering where those came from because her layer cake had dark and light fabrics in there. She was able to use the light for these pieces and then all the rest of the pieces came out of one square. It couldn't be more perfect. How many times have you opened up a layer cake and used 10 or 15 squares out of it, or maybe none? You just opened it up and then you didn't do anything with it. So you've got these extra 10-inch squares that you can put together and create something beautiful. Now I had a comment. Someone commented on one of she said, I'm guessing she really isn't into scrappy quilting. She said that she wasn't crazy about the look. She felt there was a lot of competition between the fabrics and she didn't like the end result. And I have to agree with her on that. And I did tell her that I struggle with that as well. I'm not into the just chaotic assemble all your scraps together. I know that a lot of people do them and they're beautiful and that's totally a matter of taste. I have to have things just a little bit more organized, which is why in mine, I had the block, but I also had the strips that were lighter that kind of set that off, plus the sashing strips. I like sashing in between the blocks. I like the way that it shows off the blocks, but you still have the pattern that goes together. You can see the X's here, or if you look, in all the different places, you've got different patterns that are coming out as you place the blocks together. I love all that. And I sometimes feel like with my scrappy piecing, maybe it's just me, I lose those patterns when I put them together and I don't have a little bit of some kind of lines or something in between. So that's kind of why I did that. So anyway, if you're interested after all that, if you're interested in that pattern, the information is joyfulandmerryquilting.com/store. And if you click on that and you enter in the coupon code section Scrappy, then you get a discount on it. So it's really a good deal. The pattern is full. It contains the scrap busting system and the templates and all the measurements, everything you need to create this quilt. And I love it. I'm just so happy with it. And this came about in 3 weeks. When I first started out and I created the block, I didn't have a quilt in mind. And then as it came to be, and I asked for suggestions on our shorts and on our YouTube for the borders and the binding, I got all kinds of great ideas. And that's how that quilt came to be. So it really was a total 21-day challenge, but it was a 21-day challenge where I wrote the pattern in the 21 days and made the quilt. So I'm telling you basically that it's not that hard if you follow along. It really does go together quickly. The blocks go together really fast and they're just, foundation piecing is that way. So anyway, that's my tip for today when it comes to if you want to use up those scraps, you cut them into usable pieces. this is a great option. I feel like I want to do this again. I want to do another scrap busting quilt. Maybe next year we'll do that or pick that up. I don't know. It's just one of those things that it has been really fun for me and I've really enjoyed the finished product. So I hope you have too. So that's my merry moment, kind of a long one, but it was a really great, it was more than a moment. It was like a merry 3 weeks. And I really enjoyed that whole process. Now, a while back, I talked about lost treasures that I found in my sewing room. I've been redesigning my sewing room. My husband's been doing a marvelous job just putting it all together. It looks beautiful. It's not quite ready to show off yet. I'm getting there though. And in the process of doing that, I started finding in drawers and in closets and things, all kinds of tools and different quilting things that I bought, put it in the drawer, never used it again. So I posted the video of all these tools and I asked people, tell me if you've ever used them before. I'm telling you, I got people that said that is the best tool ever, and others that said don't waste your money. So, although that was helpful, it made me think I've got to learn how to use these tools properly before I actually demo them. So, I've had people saying, when are you going to do that? You haven't done it yet. Where's the video with all this? And oh, I'm thinking I've got so many things going on right now, but I need to do those videos. So, we decided that this would be a really great place for me to just show off what I've figured out from some of the tools. So I've got two of them that I'm going to talk about today. The first one is this quick turn tool. Like if you sew tubes together and you want to turn them right side out, it's to me that's one of my least favorite things. It's such a struggle. I mean, I usually would use a pin. You know, this is a big pin for a big tube, a little pin for a little tube, and I would hook the pin on the end, and then I'd feed it through all the way through, and then hopefully turn it right side out and press it. That, you know, it works, but it's not an easy task. Then I got this hook, and I don't know if you can see it here. Put my hand in front of it just so you can see. Little teeny tiny hook on the end, and it's got a loop here. And what you do is you take this hook and you send it all the way up through the tube. You grab on. Usually you put like the little hook in the stitching line. I wouldn't put it in the fabric because I've torn fabric with it, but you have to put it in the stitching line. Be really careful. I like to have a little extra on the end of my tube, just because if I do pull out some of those stitches, you know, I can sew them back together again, but I don't lose the length. So you put that in, drive it all the way up to the end of the tube, and then you pull it out and you're pulling the inside out, turning it right side out. So that works too. It's, you know, not very long. So once you get it up pretty far, you lose it sort of, and you have to kind of feel for it. So it's okay. So I must have known that when I bought this tool. This one has 3 different tubes in here, and it says on there that it's supposed to be a quick turn fabric tube turner. And I can't believe I never used it because it really is quick and it really does turn the fabrics fast. So I wanted to test it out. There's instructions on the back, and I'll do a more detailed video on this, but I'm going to show you what I did with this right now. There's the large tube, a medium-sized tube, and a small tube. The small tube actually has kind of like a metal rod, and the other two have like a dowel rod inside of it, a wooden one, and they go inside the tubes. So to start with, I started with the large one, which what it is, this is it. This is the tube, and this is the stick that you push through. So what you do is, and I've cut a bunch of pieces here just so I can show you, is this one says for the large tube, it says, let me see, the large tube for tubes that are over 1 inch wide. So I figured, it didn't really say, but I figured it meant that the opening was 2 inches wide, and then we have our seam allowance, 1/4 inch. So if I'm going to take my piece of fabric and fold it right sides together, it's going to be 1 inch plus that 1/4 inch. And then I have to, of course, when I do that, since I'm folding it in half, I have to add for the seam allowance. So this particular one, I've measured it and I've cut a 2 1/4 inch piece of fabric. So that should be good enough to go in there. So I folded it right sides together, and you sew across the top and then all the way down the edge, leaving the bottom open. Okay. So I did that. So here's and I wanted to do a long piece because the short pieces we can turn with a pin, but the long pieces are the ones that really give us trouble. So that's what I did. I sewed across the top. I sewed all the way down the edge, and then the bottom here is open. Then you take your tube and you feed the tube into this fabric. So I did it according to the measurements. Now, see, I'm thinking this is a little bit tight. Eh, Okay, we'll do this one. That one's for my, I believe that one's for my middle one. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is for my large one. I'm feeding it through. This is the tube. Now I'm pushing the tube in. Even though that it's not down here, I'm pushing it all the way to the end. You want it all the way to the top. Then I'm going to take this, the flat, I guess you take the poker end, the pointed end, and you're going to push it. Okay. You're going to push it right in here. So you're poking in the fabric. So I'm going to do that. You see how it goes? Look at how slick that is. You just do this all the way through, hang on to the top and pull it out, take this off, and then you just have to use your little poker end and make those points. Look at that. Isn't that cool? That worked really well. It was very slick. Now, I haven't done this very much, as you could tell by what I was doing, but you can see then you can press it. And if you're doing any kind of a strap on anything, that was fast. That went together really fast. Now, that's the large one. Now, they give you the smaller one measurements. This one is noticeably thinner. You can see it's noticeably thinner on this one. And so that's what this one is for. So I'm going to take this tube, I poke it all the way up into the end. Now, I thought the smaller ones are a little trickier because, it's more snug. So I thought, oh, this is going to be hard. So what I did was I trimmed my seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch. And then at the top, I also trimmed just across and across, just so I don't have so much bulk there. I wanted to make sure that that diagonal corner was clipped off and the top. And then I also did that down the edge. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take that more point. It's not really a pointed end. It's a blunt end. And I'm going to start at this end where it's sewn. And I'm going to poke that in. You just push it. It's so satisfying. Look at that. So fun. You want to make sure that you keep pulling this down here. Otherwise, you can get a big wad right here in the end. Let's see if you can see that. You don't want that to get all wadded up right there. So poking out. Once it pokes out, you want it to get beyond where the tube meets the fabric and hang on to that. And then you just keep pulling. Now this is really long, as you can see. And then at the top, I want to make sure I poke out those corners as best as I can. You can always go back in and do that if you have to. And then drop out that stick. And look at that. There it is again. Now this is a skinnier one. I like it. I think it was good. Then you just press that, sew it. Now I did on this particular strip, it was the first one I did. I sewed 2 pieces together rather than just fold one in half in case you were going to do a 2-sided one. I didn't think about that at the start. So that's why this one was actually in 2 pieces, but it was wide enough that it didn't really make any difference. When I was turning it, it wasn't snug or anything. This one was a little bit snugger because it was it's a skinnier strip. So those 2 went well. And then I did the skinny strip. I probably, at this point, I'm not very good at it. I probably could get better at it if I practiced a little bit more. But again, I wanted to do a long strip just to see, and I did. I did a nice long strip. You can see this is really strong, really skinny. And I used the smallest strip, and like I said, the instructions are on there of how wide to cut, how wide the tube is. but this is it right here. This is the one. This is a short one, and I'm going to show you with the short one because I really struggled getting this one turned to the point that I poked the seam out when I was pushing on it because it was really stuck. So again, a long piece like that for me, I don't know. If you were doing like quilting and you had something that you needed, maybe a bias, some sort of a stem or something, I suppose that would be something that you could do with this. For me, I can't really think of anything that maybe I would do other than show you. So this again, I've got the end that I would clip, and I would clip sideways, and then I would go down and just trim this edge so that it's about 1/8 of an inch, just to really reduce that bulk in this one. Because this one actually, it was tight. And I followed the instructions for the width of the tube. And I really, like I say, I had to really push, and I was a little frustrated. So this is the tube that we're going to try and turn right side out. I'm going to take my little blue tube here, and I'm going to put it, ugh, I'm going to put it right in the bottom. This is the hard part. I feel like I need to grease it up or something. Well, shoot. I'm not having good luck, and this is boring. It's Dritz. It's the Dritz Quick Turn. That's the name of it. Okay, you guys. I'm not able to show you. I just can't seem to. Get it to poke in. No, it's just not going to work. Let me try and clip it off a little bit and see if maybe my end was too small. Okay, there we go. I think I had my end was a little too small. So we're going to poke this. Oh, no. No, what I did was I clipped off the end that was sewn. This is what's wrong with live. Oh, my gosh. Well, anyway, I'm just going to show you this. That's why I wouldn't go through, because it was stuck closed, doggone it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I put it through. We'll pretend I don't have my sewing machine on, so we're going to poke that through here. The same thing. And then you can see it just gets really bunched up at the end. And I just really struggled with it. So this is probably my least favorite one. And if you're really good at this sort of thing, this probably would be very easy for you to do. But I tried several times, and I just was not lucky enough to be able to get it done other than this one time. And I really did do this, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to show you easily on camera, which is why I had this prepared ahead of time. So anyway, that's the quick turn. And when it comes to the big one and the smaller one, now I did see somebody say that you could actually buy pipe and you could make one of these and just use a dowel rod cut up. But I don't know, by the time you bought the pipe and cut it up and cut up the dowel rods, it's probably going to cost you a fortune. You might as well just buy the Dritz Quick Turn and use it that way. So anyway, that's my feeling on that. I liked the large and the medium size. Not crazy about the smaller size, just because I'm just not good at that sort of stuff. And I probably wouldn't use it. If you would use it, it probably would work just fine. But I'm going to try, when I do my demo, I'll try and perfect my technique a little bit. And hopefully I'll be able to show that without cutting the wrong end off, be able to show you how to do that. So look for that video. Again, that should be in the next couple of weeks. We'll do that. So that's my first one that I found in my drawer. My second one I really love. And I was so impressed because I have heard about these. It's called the slotted trimmer. And what it is, it comes with 2 rulers that help you square up your half square triangles. Now, the reason this was of interest to me, excuse me, the interest to me this week is somebody asked a question, it was a comment, where she said, do you know of any way that you can square up half square triangles without having to continually cut all 4 sides? She actually wanted to know how to square them up by stacking them. I don't really know how to do that stacking, because I think they could get off very easily when you're stacking up those thick layers. But if you use the slotted trimmer, you only have to trim 2 sides and not 4 because they're folded together. So that's a little bit of a savings of time. So I decided I was going to really investigate this and see because I love to do half square triangles. So the way the tool looks, and it's very difficult, I think, for you to see here, is and welcome. We have people from France and from Canada here today. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you join me. I'm sorry I can't watch that as quickly as I would like, but I'm gonna. Is there a piece of paper there? Oh, here, I'll use this. I just want to be able to show you what this ruler looks like. Okay, so this is it. See if make sure I have it right side up. This is the trimmer A, and then it also has the trimmer B. The difference between the two trimmers is that the trimmer A does the half square triangles to the 1/2 inch. In other words, if you have like you want it unfinished 2.5 inch, 1.5 inch, 4.5 inch, 5.5, 6.5. The template B, the trimmer B, is if you want an unfinished 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, or 6-inch. I don't usually use unfinished that size. My unfinished are the half sizes, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. So this is the one that I used for this. I was a little worried when I opened it up because it has a little bit of a non-skid surface, but not a lot. And I was afraid that it would wiggle or move. So what I did was I got my True Grips out, and they are just these little round ovals. These are these little round circles that they go on your ruler, and they just make it non-skid. You can put tape on it or whatever, but I like these. And there's the little teeny hole that's in it. I put those in the middle, and then I put 3 on there. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to move when I was cutting. I don't want, because if it moves, you've ruined it. So this is what the packaging looks like. And I started out, I decided, I'm going to show you, we're going to turn the camera down here so that you can see what we're doing. But the nice thing about this is it doesn't just trim your half square triangles, but it also trims off those dog ears at the same time. So you don't have to do that. I really liked that. So this is my, yeah, that's great. That's perfect. Just like that. Perfect. I love my Martelli rotating 10-inch rotating mat. I use this all the time for these smaller pieces, and I'll show you why in a second. So the first thing I did was I made a half square triangle. I have not opened it up yet. I've done this already, so I have seen it work. But I have the half square triangle that I'm going to square this up to 2.5 inches. So I take my ruler, and hopefully you can see it has, it has a dashed line on it. Where's my pointer? Oh yeah, that's good. So you can see, I'm going to put this under it just for now, just to start with. So I'm turning this away from me so you can see it. But it has a 1.5 inch dashed line, 2.5 inch, 3.5 inch, 4.5 inch, 5.5 inch, 6.5 inch. That is your unfinished size of your half square triangle. So as I said, I'm going to do a 2.5 inch. The dashed line is my sewing line. So I am going to place that 2.5 inch marking on my sewing line. Now I'm going to do this facing me. I can't see very well from this angle. But then what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off here and here. And then right in here, your rotary cutter fits right into those little slots from either direction. And you're going to cut off those dog ears. And then when you press it open, it should be 2.5 inches square. So let's see if that's right. Now, like I say, I haven't checked this yet, so I don't know for sure. But I've got the piece. I'm going to actually put the white square up so it's a little easier for you to see. Now, this is going to be upside down for you, but I'm going to show you. I'll turn it around then when we're ready. I have placed that dashed line right on the sewing line. Now, I tried it above the line, below the line, because, sometimes it doesn't work out exactly right, but it worked out for me when I placed it right on the line. So there it is. Then I'm going to take my rotary cutter. Sorry. Thank you. And I'm going to trim. Now I'm trimming here. And then right here where that little slot is, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to turn it again, do that. And then I'm going to turn it again and get that little corner off of there. I'm in a really awkward angle here. So it really did work pretty slick when I cut it off. But trying to show it for the camera. Okay, so here it is. Now I'm going to press it open. And I'm going to press toward the dark. So I set my seam. And then I pressed it open. And there is our half square triangle. So we're going to see how it measures up. Got a little bit of a glare here, so it's hard to see. But look at that. It is really perfect. I've got a little tail right here, it looks like, but that's, I think, no, maybe not. It's because of the angle that I was cutting, because I did this when I did it just on my table. And it was absolutely perfect. So, like I say, I've got a little crumb right here, but that was user error and not ruler error. And there we have that perfect half square triangle. And I didn't have to cut and cut and cut and cut. And I think it came out really accurate. I'm really happy with that. Okay, so then on the packaging, it says, you can square up anything like an hourglass. And so I thought, okay, let's try that. So I made my hourglass piece. I haven't opened it yet. I just took it to this point. I did open this one and look at how nice it looks. It really did work well. So here I have the same thing. Now this one is a 3.5 inch finished. So I'm gonna try and do this so that I can see it. It's just like a little tad away from me and it's hard for me to see. And then there's a glare. But I'm gonna line up my seam right with that dashed line that says 3.5, and then in parentheses it says 3 inches. So I know it's a 3-inch finished triangle. 3-inch finished hourglass block, but 3.5 inch is what the unfinished size is before it's added into the quilt. Okay, the other thing that it suggested when you do something like this is you want to make sure that you line up the point right here on the center line so that you're not off when you actually make your cut. So I'm trying to line that up. I've lined my seam up, and now I'm going to do cut and cut. And then again, this is why I love this little mat, because it just lets me just slide it around. And I think those grippers really helped on there. Then I'm going to take that, and then the same thing on this side. And there I have that cut. And open. I'm going to press it open. Set my seam. And look at that. Let's take our ruler and measure it. And I've got my diagonal going. You can see my points are all perfect. And then look at that. 3.5 inch. It couldn't be more accurate. And how quick was that? Oops, wait a minute. I don't have it lined up exactly right here. I mean, it was so quick to do that. And I've got this perfect square. So I can't believe I haven't used this. Okay, we can turn it up. Do I like the true grips are these little sticky things that you put on the back of your ruler. This ruler is actually called the slotted trimmer. And I have used the block lock forever, as well as the slotted trimmer. I love the block lock, especially for the flying geese. But I'm telling you, with this, I'm impressed with this as well. So I can't, they're about the same price. And I was thinking about that. Which one do I like better? And I don't know. I don't know which one I like better. I like this one because it has all these options for the different sizes. Block Lock does too. They're just two different products that really do a great job. The Block Lock that I've had, they have a whole array of different shapes and sizes that you can use that I have that I haven't used all of them. I'll be honest with you. But when we look at this and what they do and the different options here, I don't know. I like them both. I really do. I think sometimes when I'm doing something and the Block Lock, locks the ruler, locks the seam in so that I can cut, and then I can use my mat and I can spin it. So it doesn't take me a lot of time to spin it around and do all four sides. This was just a different trick. And do two sides, press it open, and they both worked really well. So I had a lot of people that commented on this. I didn't have anybody say if they used the tape or the non-skid surface on there, but like I said, when I did use it the first time, it slipped a little bit. And the Block Lock has that advantage. There's no slipping. It just goes as you cut. It's locked in, so you don't have that. So that is a very big plus with Block Lock. But when I put these little non-skid circles on there, my True Grips, it remedied that problem. So I did not have it, and I don't know. I think it's a really great product. I've been really impressed with that as well. Like I say, it's about the same price depending on what you get. So it's totally up to you, whatever you're more comfortable with. I think either one, I think, is difficult if you don't have a good rotating mat, because then you have to pick your blocks up and turn them every time, and then everything moves. So that I think unless you've got a good rotating mat, I'm not sure that I would want to cut a whole bunch that way. The other thing is there are rotating mats that are OmniGrid makes them that really they rotate, but they don't have this quick movement. And I find this is what makes this easy for me, is that I can move it. You get really good control. At first, when I first tried it, I was like, whoa, that thing was really hard. It was really spinning fast. But once I got used to it, I really like it. I really love the way that it works. And I like doing that. The trimmer, I think, if I remember right, I think it was like $31. I can't remember positively. I bought this like forever ago, but I did look it up. We do have a link. We'll post a link in the, we look for the best price that we could find. And I just can't remember right off, but I think it was about $31. And I think that the Block Lock is pretty close to compare. It sounds like a lot, I know, but these rulers are just not cheap. They all are. That's why I want to be careful what I invest in when I do get my rulers, because I want to make sure that there's something that I'm going to use and I'm not going to waste my money on, or leave it sit in a drawer like I did this. What a waste that was. That was just a terrible waste. So again, I'll do a better video on this, really more detail where you can see better, a tips video, so that it'll be a little easier to see this. And hopefully I'll figure out how to use this a little bit better than what I did. But either way, I just really, I've been so impressed with this particular slotted trimmer that I wanted to share it with you first, because it was one that I got good at really fast. There wasn't a huge learning curve to it. It was pretty easy, and I just followed the instructions that were in the package, and it came together just fine. Of course, you have to create your half square triangles and your hourglass triangles, or this would be a quarter square triangle also. That's something that we'll have another video for, another tutorial. So anyway, I hope that was fun for you. I was just so excited to show this to you, and I knew I had to do it today, just to use that great tool and show you that it's an option. So if there's any questions, were there any questions that you could see? I thank you for joining me. I don't want to take a ton of your time. I know that everybody's busy, and we also have kinds of things. Oh, Rosalie said that her mitered border turned out great. I am so glad, Rosalie, because I'm telling you, mitered borders, if you can do it, to me, they are simple, they are beautiful, and they look really hard. That's the best part. Somebody looks and says, oh my gosh, you mitered your borders. Well, we're not going to tell them it's not that hard, because it's not. And that's one of the things that we learned in the class. Now, you would think a beginning quilter probably wouldn't want to learn the mitered borders right away, but I think that it's so important that we do, because it just really does set off our quilts, and it's a great option for borders when we're doing that. So anyway, Afternoon Delight, Bonnie. I remember that song. Anyway, thank you for attending. Thank you for being here and for all your comments and for watching the videos and liking and subscribing. We are so grateful for that. We are so happy that you are participating and joining me. I know there's a lot of competition out there, and I'm not at all into the competition. I'm just into the joy of quilting. I love quilting. It brings me much joy, and I want to pass along that joy to each person who expresses any kind of an interest in quilting, because I think once you get hooked, it's just something that brings us so much fulfillment, especially the friendships that we make. Not only that, but what we learn, keeping us active, keeping us busy, keeping our minds healthy. There's so many things when it comes to quilting, and I just really love sharing that with each of you and hopefully coming up with some new ideas. Again, I get a lot of my tips from the comments that people post. So if you have tips that you want to post and you want me to check something out, please do. And if I can, I will. I have a pretty long list right now of ideas that people have given me. So I'm trying, but it's going to take me a little bit to get through the list. So just because something was suggested at one point, I'm not quite sure when I'll get to it, but I really do. I put it on the list and it's going to happen because we got all the time in the world. What else do we have to do, right? We're quilters. We do everything that we want when it comes to quilting. We take the time to do that. Everything else can just sit by the wayside until we get it done. And that's the whole thing. That's why we get things done. Now, one thing I do want to tell you is that when I did this quilt, I set goals for myself, my 3 block a day goal. And that's kind of my suggestion to you. If my Mary moment suggestion is that if you are getting a little overwhelmed with your projects and you feel like you don't have time to do anything else, if you are working on something intently, set a goal, a time period, 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 blocks, whatever works for you, so that you always get your quilting in and that you are actually able to experience that joy every day that you want to, because I think it just really rejuvenates me, makes me feel better. Thank you, Joyce. Joyce says she likes my shirt. Thank you. So anyway, that's it for today. We will see you back. If you have not clicked like, please do that. That would be, I would be most grateful. It means a lot and it really does help. And if you haven't subscribed, or if you know anybody that you'd like to introduce this channel to, please do that also. We're working towards that 20,000. I just really, it's like we were working towards the 1,000 and then the 5 and then the 10 and then the 15. And that's all happened in such a short period of time. I am determined our next goal to be the 20,000. And I just am so excited for that to happen. So it's all because of you guys. I really appreciate it. I am always trying to be joyful. It's been so easy lately to be joyful, and I don't know why, but sometimes it's just easier than others. We have our difficulties, but being joyful and being happy are two very different things. And we can always have joy, even when maybe our happiness is struggling a little bit. We can always have joy. So I am always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry. And I thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you on the 6th of March at 1 p.m. Central Time right here. Thanks for joining me.